Lord, I don't trust you. We got trust issues. I had $20 and a promise where it looked like it wasn't going to happen. It doesn't look like what God promised us. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shareda, and today we are going to be talking about trust, girl. How do you fully trust God when it looks crazy, when it doesn't look like what He promised you? And so if we don't fully trust God, then we may not step into everything that He has for us. And so I want to help you, girl. I want to give you 3 practical tips that you can implement today if you're struggling in this area as far as trust. Me and you, we got trust issues. We have trust issues, and it's okay. We're gonna work on it today. But first, if you are new here, girl, welcome. My name is Shareda, and I just post videos that I feel like God is leading me to share in hopes that it would help you and encourage you on your journey with Him. So if that is something that you're interested in, then please consider subscribing. Without further ado, let's jump into this video. When I think of trusting God fully, this is what I think of. If you just close your eyes and you just imagine yourself standing right on the edge of a cliff. There's nobody around, there's nothing around. I mean, like your toes are hanging on the edge and you're just standing there. And as you lift up your foot to take a step, when you place your foot back down, that is when the step will appear. I just think of that visualization. I don't know if that helps anybody, but I know that I've been in certain seasons in my life where I just felt so uncomfortable. I felt like I was right at the edge of a cliff. I really wanted to paint that picture for you because if you can see your way out, it doesn't require faith. It doesn't require God. It doesn't require trust. And so some of the things that God has for us, it's gonna require us to trust Him. This is gonna sound so weird, but the first thing that I want us to really examine and really to think about when we're talking about how to fully trust God is that God is a stranger to us. And so in order to fully trust Him, we have to get to know Him. And this is the thing that really helps me put this into perspective, is that if I came to your house right now and I was like, listen, girl, I just need $1,000 right now. And I promise I'll give it back to you tomorrow, but let me just hold $1,000. You would be like, girl, what? I don't even trust you. I don't even know you. You would be looking at me like side eye. And I think that so often we do the same thing to God. And so I think it is so important for us to really put this perspective on our interaction in our relationship with God, is that we don't trust Him because we don't know Him. He is a stranger to us. And how do we get to know Him? We start by reading His Word. We start by spending time in His presence, and we communicate with Him. One of the things that God revealed to me is that He is not demanding that on the first day that we completely fully trust Him with all of our life and all of our possessions and everything that we have and everything that we are. Like, start with the baby steps, just like you would with any person that you are meeting for the first time. You would start little by little. God is willing, and He is so much God that He is willing to earn our trust, even though He is trustworthy, even though He cannot lie, even though He is who He says He is. But more importantly, He cares about that intimate personal relationship that you have with Him. What I want to encourage you with today is that God, He cares about that guard that you have built up between you and Him. He says, if you just trust me with this little piece of your heart, and if I show you and I prove to you that I am able to take care of fully of this little piece, then maybe you'll begin to trust me with more of your heart. Maybe you'll begin to break down that wall that you have built up against me. And the second thing that I think is so important when we're talking about how to fully trust God is we have to recognize the ways in which our lack of trust is showing up in our actions. And let me explain what that means. A lot of times we can say verbally, like, Lord, I trust you, but yet we're doing everything in the natural that doesn't align with the things that we say verbally with our mouth. I can remember a season in my life where I was broke. I literally remember I had enough money to pay for 1 week in a hotel for me and my daughter. I had just enough, the exact amount plus like roughly like $20. Once I paid for the hotel, I also had to figure out how we were going to eat for the week. I literally had to trust God moment by moment. $20 to eat for the week? I had $20 and a promise. That's what I had. That's all I had. Like, I could have found unethical, sinful ways to make money. And if the Holy Spirit wasn't working in me, if the Holy Spirit wasn't moving throughout my situation, I would have quickly turned to other things. I would have quickly turned to this world to be the source of my provision in that season. And so often I feel like Christians, us as believers, and I'm guilty of it, is that when we're ever placed in a season where it doesn't look like what God promised us, it actually looks like the complete opposite of what God promised us, it can be so easy to turn to other things. It can be so easy to turn to the world, and for the world to be that sense of comfort, or for the world to provide what we need. And so oftentimes, help me Holy Spirit, God will place us in situations where there will be no other source. Because trust and believe, when God has something for you, when God places something in you, there is only a certain set of circumstances that will bring that out. And sometimes in the spiritual, we feel like so uncomfortable that we've tried to find things to grasp onto, tried to find things to hold onto. I know that I cannot be the only one that when I was in a season where it looked uncertain, where it looked like it wasn't going to happen, that I attempted to grasp onto things to make me feel stable. If you ever feel that in your spirit, you know that you're on the right path, because that is what God calls us to. It doesn't look like what social media tells us. See, the world will tell us that if we can just save enough money, then we can quit our job. If we can just do all the right things, then we'll be in good health. If we can just see our way to the promised land, then that is the way that we need to take. And what I'm here to tell you is that is not of the spirit, that is of the flesh, because it doesn't require faith. It doesn't require trust for us to walk that path. And so many of us are comfortable with living beneath what God has called us to because it is comfortable. And see, there is something that is stirring up on the inside of you right now. I know it is, because God calls us to the uncomfortable places. He calls us to the places that doesn't look right. He calls us to the places where there are no security blankets, where there is nothing to grab onto, where it feels like we're right at the edge of a cliff, because there He can show us where He is the only source. Oh, help me Holy Spirit. He is the only provider. He is the only healer. He is the only comforter. He is the only refuge. He is the only rock. And so He often places us in positions where He is the only thing that we can trust in, because He has taken everything that feels comfortable, everything that feels familiar out of our reach. I know what that feels like. Can I tell you, I know from personal experience what that feels like. And the third and final thing that I want to leave you with on how to trust God fully is that we have to remember and reflect on how God showed up previously. And one of the best ways to do this, I recommend this in any season in your life, but one of the best ways to do this is to keep a journal throughout different seasons of your life. And the reason why that I recommend this, not in just the area of trusting Him, but a lot of times when we're in a place of discomfort or we're just going through it, girl, journaling helps us get all of our thoughts out of our head and onto paper. And I think it it is so important, especially when we need to be trusting the Lord, because the Lord is going to give us instruction. The Lord is going to speak. The Lord is going to give us wisdom and clarity. But secondly, the most important reason why it's important to journal is because we can go back and we can remember the ways in which God showed up in our lives in previous seasons, because how quickly our minds forget in the ways that God was able to show up and show out previously. A lot of times when we're walking through the wilderness and we're walking through and we can't see our way through, we have to meditate on the ways that God showed up in the past, and we have to meditate on his word, because God is not a man that he should lie. And so when we spend more time focusing on the promises of God and his word, it will begin to fill us up. I don't know if you're anything like me, but when I was in a season where I could not see where the provision was gonna come from, my back was against the wall. I felt like the walls were caving in, and yet I was right on the edge of the cliff, and I'm like, Lord, if I take a step, if I lift my foot up and I place it back down, I don't see the step. I don't see the step, God. And I'm trusting you that if I place my foot down, that there will be a step. And that is the hardest thing about trust, is that you don't see it. You don't know for sure that he's gonna show up. You don't know for sure that he's gonna provide. But he says you can trust me. This is the amazing thing about God, is because I'm in this trusting season right now. I was having this conversation with the Lord literally days ago, and he revealed this to me, and he just started showing me. He started replaying all of the ways that he showed up in the past. He started replaying all of the ways that he made a way out of no way. And he says, do you think that I would show up and I would provide for you in those ways in the past to bring you all to this point, to build up all of this trust that you have in me? And we're right at the edge of a breakthrough, only for you to be put to shame. He says, I'm going to do it for my name's sake, because he is not a man that he should lie. What's more on the line than your trust? What's more on the line than your livelihood? What is more on the line than his ability to show up for you is for his name's sake. He is God. He is holy. He is righteous. He is creator of heaven and earth. He is who he says he is. He says, I am. Do you really think that the Lord would bring you all the way up to this point to just disappoint you? It's not in his nature. It's not of his character. One of the things that I know to be absolutely true, doesn't make it easy, but it makes it true, is that oftentimes God will put us in situations where there is no other way that it could work out. There is no other alternative. There is no natural remedy. There is nothing that is logical about how it could work out but God. He will often put us in a situation so that we know that we serve the true and living God. Emphasis on living. It was nobody but him, because see, God has to get all the glory. And that's the amazing thing about God. And so if you're in a season right now where you are just trusting God and it just doesn't look like what he promises, in fact, it looks like the complete opposite, what I'm here to tell you is that you're in the right space. You're on the right path. You're in the right place. You're at the right time. Like, the Lord is gonna do it for his name's sake, because his name is on the line. He's gonna get all the glory. He's going to get all the honor. He is going to do it because of who he is. It is not because of who you are. It is not because of what you've done, good or bad. It is not because of anything that anyone has ever told you, but it is because of who he is. And so if you're a person that is struggling in this area, this is a bonus tip. Like, literally just be honest. Like, God can do so much more with our honesty than our pretending. Like, God, he can do so much. This is when I'm speaking the things, like, you guys have to know that I am literally speaking to me as well. Like, yes, I've learned these things because the Holy Spirit has revealed himself in the areas where I needed to trust him more, but he is also still speaking to me in this area where I need to trust him more. And literally all we have to do is just be honest. Lord, I don't trust you. And I know for me that sounds silly. I know for me it sounded like, when I used to think this, it sounded like I would hurt God's feelings, but it was literally the truth. And the Lord is so much God that he showed me that he is able to do so much more with my honesty than me just going through the motions, than me just throwing up a half prayer, than me just trusting him but trusting in my own way. He is still able to do so much with my honesty than he is able to do with my pretending that I trust him. And so if you are struggling, as I was struggling with trusting the Lord fully and completely, be completely honest why you don't trust him. Was there an area where you felt like he was supposed to show up in a particular way and he didn't, and so that just diminished your trust towards him? Like, we got to be so honest with God. We got to be brutally honest with him, because then he can begin to move, then he can begin to heal. And so I pray that you find this word encouraging. I pray that it is able to help you. I pray that it sparks something in you to say, Lord, I'm just being brutally honest. I don't trust you. You seem like a stranger. I don't know what to trust in you. And sometimes really what it is, we don't even know what God is capable of. And so therefore we trust God this much because we don't even know the extent of what he's truly capable of. And some of us are trusting God for so much. We're trusting God for this big, enormous thing, and we just think that this thing is bigger than the God that we trust or the God that we serve. And what I'm here to tell you is that nothing, no one, no situation is bigger than the God that we serve. And so it starts with our honesty. Lord, I don't trust you. Help me to trust you. And so I pray that you find this word encouraging. Y'all know I'm a big crybaby. This is the season where it's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. We're trusting God. But one thing that I know is that when we put all of our trust in him, he will never fail us. We will never ever be put to shame. And great things are right on the outside of our comfortability. God knows that there's more in us. And so sometimes he might have to prune us, and sometimes he might have to pull us back, and sometimes he might have to say, no, not yet. And sometimes he might have to say, just wait, it's coming. But he's trustworthy. It's worth it to trust him. That is all that I have for you in today's video. I pray that you found it helpful. If you did, give it a like, give it a share, comment down below, subscribe, do all of that, girl. I love you so much, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.